Have you ever walked away from a conversation replaying every word in your head, frustrated because you knew you were completely right, yet you somehow lost the argument? You had the facts, you had the logic, and you had the moral high ground. But the other person, armed with nothing but arrogance and trickery, managed to make you look foolish. They walked away victorious while you were left questioning your own sanity. This is a universal experience, and it exposes a very dark truth about human nature. In the real world, truth and logic are rarely the deciding factors in a dispute. Arguments are not won by the person with the best facts. They are won by the person with the best tactics. Power, as Robert Greene consistently points out, relies heavily on perception. If you appear victorious, you are victorious. Long before modern psychology, the brilliant and cynical philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer understood this perfectly. He realized that human vanity is so fragile that people will use any dirty trick to avoid admitting they are wrong. He documented these methods not so you could become a terrible person, but so you could protect yourself from the manipulators, the narcissists, and the aggressively ignorant people you interact with every single day. Today, we are going to uncover the darkest tactics used to win any argument, even when you are completely wrong. By the end of this journey, you will possess a dangerous toolkit. You can use it to defend yourself, or you can use it to dominate. Before we dive into the shadows of human psychology, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss another lesson in mastering the game of power. The first method in this dark arsenal is the tactic of absolute extension. Human beings naturally communicate in specific bounded contexts. When you make a point, you're usually talking about a very specific situation. The manipulator knows this, but they will intentionally ignore your boundaries. They will take your specific statement and stretch it to its absolute, most extreme logical conclusion. By expanding your claim as wide as possible, they create a massive target that is incredibly easy to attack and destroy. Imagine you are in a meeting at work. You look at the current quarterly budget and suggest that perhaps the marketing department should cut back slightly on social media spending to allocate more funds to product development. It is a reasonable, measured suggestion, but a rival colleague who wants to embarrass you in front of the boss employs the tactic of absolute extension. They do not argue about the specific numbers. Instead, they lean back, smirk, and say loudly for the whole room to hear, "So you are saying marketing is completely useless and we should just abandon our entire digital presence? Are you suggesting we stop finding new customers altogether?" Suddenly, you are no longer defending a small budget shift. You are forced to defend the absurd idea that marketing is useless. You panic, you start backtracking, and you look weak. They win, not by addressing your point, but by stretching it until it breaks. You see this in personal relationships all the time. You might tell your partner that you are exhausted and just want one quiet evening alone to recharge. Instead of accepting this specific request, they extend it. They respond with, "Oh, so you never want to spend time with me anymore? You think I'm exhausting to be around? Do you even want to be in this relationship?" In seconds, a simple request for a quiet night is blown up into a crisis. About the entire relationship, the manipulator has forced you onto the defensive. To counter this, you must never take the bait. Do not start explaining your feelings or getting emotional. You must immediately and forcefully narrow the scope back to your original point. You look them in the eye and say, "No, I am not talking about our relationship, and I am not talking about forever. I am talking about tonight." Do not let them expand the battlefield. Confine them to the small box of your original statement. The second tactic is the Trojan horse of agreement, or concealing your ultimate goal. When you enter a negotiation or an argument, your opponent is naturally defensive. Their walls are up. If you present your final conclusion or your main demand right at the beginning, they will immediately attack it. They will find every reason to say no. Therefore, the dark tactician never reveals their true destination until the opponent is already locked inside the trap. You must extract agreements from your opponent on small, seemingly unrelated and undeniable facts. You present these premises scattered and out of order, so the other person cannot see the pattern or guess where you are leading them. Because these individual points seem harmless, they will agree to them. Yes, yes, yes. You build a foundation of their own admissions. Let us say you are trying to convince a stubborn client to completely overhaul their outdated software system, something they have aggressively resisted because of the cost. If you walk in and say you need to buy our new system, they will shut you down. Instead, you use the Trojan horse. You ask, would you agree that efficiency is the most important metric for your team's success? They say yes, of course. You then ask, and would you agree that time spent fixing old errors is time not spent acquiring new clients? Again, they must say yes. You scatter these questions throughout a casual conversation over coffee. You ask, is it true that your top competitor just expanded their market share last month? Yes. You have not mentioned software once. You have completely concealed your game. But you have just made them admit that efficiency is vital, that fixing old problems loses money, and that their competitor is winning. Only then, when they are surrounded by their own agreed-upon facts, do you spring the trap. You present the conclusion, since we agree that lost time is lost money and your competitors are moving faster, keeping the old system is actually costing you more than upgrading. They cannot disagree with the conclusion without contradicting everything they just admitted. You have cornered them with their own logic. This tactic requires immense patience. Most people are too eager to make their point. The master of argument plays the long game, hiding their intentions in plain sight, building a cage around the opponent one invisible bar at a time. The third dark tactic in this arsenal is perhaps the most destructive, yet the most commonly used by natural manipulators: the calculated induction of anger. Robert Greene explicitly outlines this in the 48 Laws of Power when he states, "Stir up waters to catch fish." When a person is calm, their mind is a fortress. They can think logically, anticipate your moves, and defend their position. But when a person is angry, the logical centers of their brain literally shut down. They are hijacked by emotion. They become reckless, they lose their filter, and most importantly, they lose the perception of control. In any public argument, the person who loses their temper automatically loses the debate in the eyes of the audience, regardless of who is actually right. The manipulator knows that they do not need to defeat your logic. They only need to defeat your composure. To execute this, they will not just hurl random insults. That is amateurish and obvious. The dark tactician observes you carefully to find your specific insecurities, your hidden triggers, and your vulnerabilities. They will use a condescending tone, a dismissive laugh, or subtly mock something you are deeply passionate about. They will constantly interrupt you, not to make a valid point, but simply to break your rhythm and frustrate your thought process. The true sinister key to this tactic is the contrast in behavior. While they are secretly sliding the knife in and twisting it to make you furious, they maintain a facade of absolute calmness, politeness, and rationality. Imagine a scenario where you are confronting a toxic colleague or a manipulative friend who has been crossing your boundaries or taking credit for your work. You approach them with dates, facts, text messages, and pure logical proof of their behavior. You are entirely in the right, but instead of addressing the overwhelming evidence, they look at you with a patronizing smile, tilt their head and say calmly, "You are always so hysterical and paranoid over the smallest things. Have you been sleeping poorly?" This is why people find it so exhausting to work with you. Notice what they did. They completely ignored the facts and struck directly at your deepest insecurities about your professional reputation and your emotional stability. If you take the bait, you will explode. You will start shouting, waving your hands, and perhaps shaking in frustration because of the sheer injustice of their response. In that exact moment, anyone watching will look at the two of you, one person calm and smiling with fake concern, the other screaming and red in the face, and they will subconsciously conclude that you are indeed the unstable one. The manipulator wins by turning your own biological, emotional reaction into evidence against you. To defend against this, you must master the absolute art of emotional detachment. When you feel the heat rising in your chest and the urgent biological urge to snap back, you must recognize that you are being played like an instrument. Do not defend the insult. Do not justify your sanity. You must look at them coldly. Pause for a painfully long moment to let their childish behavior hang in the empty air and calmly say, "I see you are trying to make this emotional and personal to avoid the actual issue. We are going to stick to the facts." By naming their tactic out loud, you completely disarm it and you instantly regain your power. The fourth dark tactic involves weaponizing your opponent's own beliefs, history, and affiliations against them. Schopenhauer referred to this as the argumentum ad hominem, but in a very specific strategic way. We can call it the strategy of the hypocrite's mirror. When someone is clearly beating you in an argument using logic and undeniable facts, you simply stop attacking their facts and start attacking their consistency. You search ruthlessly for any contradiction between what they are arguing now and what they have said, done, or associated themselves with in the past. Human beings fundamentally despise hypocrisy. If you can prove to the audience that your opponent is a hypocrite, the audience will immediately invalidate their entire argument, even if their current point is 100% mathematically and scientifically correct. This is a masterful tactic of misdirection. You are shifting the spotlight from the objective truth of the argument to the subjective character of the person making it. Let us say you are having a fierce debate about personal finance and discipline. Your opponent is brilliantly breaking down the necessity of frugal living, investing in assets, and avoiding unnecessary consumer debt. Their logic is absolutely flawless, and you are losing the debate. To deploy the hypocrite's mirror, you do not try to argue against the mathematics of investing, because you cannot win that fight. Instead, you casually lean forward and say, "It is absolutely fascinating to hear you give a strict lecture on financial responsibility and discipline, considering you just took out a massive loan to buy a luxury vehicle you cannot afford to impress people you do not like. Are we supposed to take strict financial advice from someone drowning in their own consumer debt?" Notice exactly what happens here. You have not disproved a single word they said about investing. Their financial advice might still be perfect, but you have completely destroyed their credibility. You have forced them to stop arguing about the topic and start defending their personal life choices. They will immediately panic and start trying to explain why their car loan was a special circumstance or a necessary business expense. The absolute moment they start defending themselves, they have lost the dominant position. You have successfully derailed a logical defeat into a character assassination. You see this constantly in mass media, corporate boardrooms, and politics. If a public figure argues for strict environmental regulations, their opponents will not argue the complex climate science. They will simply publish photos of that figure flying in a private jet. The argument instantly shifts from saving the planet to the politician's personal carbon footprint. The manipulator uses the opponent's own history as a weapon to completely destroy the validity of their current stance. Furthermore, if they cannot find a personal hypocrisy, they will attack your affiliations. They will say you claim to support free speech, but you belong to a political party that actively tries to ban certain books. Which is it? Now you are forced to defend the actions of an entire group, rather than your own point. If a dark tactician uses this mirror against you, the worst possible thing you can do is start defending your past actions. The moment you start making excuses for your car loan, your private jet, or your group affiliations, you are playing their game on their territory. You must acknowledge the pivot and forcefully drag them back to the arena of truth. You respond by saying, "My personal choices, whether flawed or not, do not change the objective mathematics and the truth of what we are discussing." Are you attacking my personal life simply because you have absolutely no intellectual counter-argument to the facts I just presented? This brutally forces them back into the logical trap they were trying to escape and exposes their cheap manipulation to everyone watching. The fifth dark strategy in the manipulator's playbook is the tactic of the overwhelming avalanche, often referred to in modern times as the rapid-fire assault. When a debate is moving slowly and logically, step by step, the truth eventually surfaces. The person who is wrong cannot survive a slow, methodical examination of facts. Therefore, the dark tactician deliberately destroys the pacing of the argument. They do not give you 1 point to consider. They throw 10 points at you simultaneously. They will unleash a chaotic barrage of half-truths, irrelevant statistics, wild accusations, and complex questions in a matter of seconds. The psychological goal here is not to make a coherent point, but to create absolute cognitive overload. Imagine you are defending a project you managed that experienced a minor delay. Your opponent wants to ruin your credibility to get a promotion over you. Instead of asking about the specific delay, they corner you in a meeting and say, "Your project was late, the budget is completely unclear." Half the team is complaining about your leadership. You ignored the client's crucial email last Tuesday, and frankly, the entire design is outdated. How do you explain all of this? They have just fired 5 separate bullets. If you try to answer them in order, starting with the delay, they will immediately interrupt you and say, "Notice how they are refusing to talk about the budget and the team complaints." If you try to address the team complaints first, they will shout that you are ignoring the late delivery. It is a trap designed to make you look evasive and incompetent no matter what you do. They create a mess so large that you simply do not have the time or oxygen to clean it up before the audience assumes you are guilty. The only way to survive this avalanche is to refuse to play their game of whack-a-mole. You must not attempt to answer every single accusation. That is impossible and makes you look desperate. Instead, you maintain supreme composure. Hold up a single hand to stop their momentum and calmly say, "You have just thrown 5 completely different accusations into the room to create confusion. I will not untangle your mess. I will take your single most serious claim right now and prove that you are entirely incorrect." You then completely dismantle their weakest or most provably false point. By destroying one pillar of their rapid-fire attack, you implicitly prove to the audience that the rest of their claims are just as baseless and manipulative. Moving deeper into the shadows of manipulation, the sixth tactic is the illusion of the extreme alternative, or the false dichotomy. Human beings naturally seek safety and avoid extreme danger. The master manipulator exploits this biological hardwiring by framing the argument so that their desired conclusion looks like the only safe harbor, while presenting the opposite view as a catastrophic, terrifying disaster. They completely erase all nuance, all middle ground, and all compromise. They build a psychological prison with only 2 doors, and they make sure one of those doors looks like it leads straight off a cliff. Schopenhauer observed that to make someone accept a proposition, you simply present them with a counter-proposition that is so blindingly extreme that they have no choice but to agree with you to avoid looking completely insane. Let us say you are negotiating a business contract or making a major financial decision with a partner. You suggest that perhaps you should wait 3 months to gather more market data before investing all your capital. This is a highly rational, cautious approach, but your partner is impatient and wants to force the investment today. They will use the illusion of the extreme alternative. They slam their hand on the table and say, "Look, either we seize this opportunity right now and completely dominate the market, or we sit around doing absolutely nothing like cowards until our competitors crush us and we all go bankrupt. Which is it going to be?" They have completely erased your reasonable suggestion of a 3-month delay. They have framed the reality as a strict binary choice. Instant victory through their reckless plan, or absolute apocalyptic ruin through yours. In front of a board of directors, or even in a heated personal relationship, this tactic forces people to abandon caution because nobody wants to be the person advocating for ruin. When you are trapped in this false binary, you must recognize the illusion immediately. The manipulator wants you to choose between their 2 fake options. Do not make a choice. Instead, You must break the frame entirely and expose their theatrical exaggeration. You respond with a cold, piercing tone, saying you are presenting a false choice between your rushed plan and total bankruptcy, simply to create unnecessary panic. Those are not our only two options, and using cheap fear tactics will not force my hand. The third and most rational option is exactly what I just proposed. By calmly introducing the middle ground, you not only destroy their argument, but you expose them as an emotional extremist while cementing yourself as the voice of true rationality and control. The seventh and final dark tactic is perhaps the most theatrical and the most humiliating to endure. It is the strategy of bypassing the opponent entirely and appealing directly to the gallery. Schopenhauer understood that logic is often boring, but entertainment is universally loved. When the dark tactician realizes they are completely outmatched in facts and reason, they will stop trying to convince you. Instead, they will turn their attention to the audience, whether that is a room full of colleagues, a group of mutual friends, or even strangers on the internet. They will use humor, ridicule, or a shared social prejudice to make a mockery of your highly logical point. Let us imagine you are a health expert explaining the complex, long-term dangers of processed sugar to a group of friends, citing metabolic pathways and insulin resistance. You are absolutely correct, and your argument is flawless. The manipulator, who has absolutely no scientific knowledge, does not try to debate your data. Instead, they roll their eyes, look around at the rest of the group, and say with a loud theatrical laugh, "Well, I guess we should all just eat tree bark and drink rainwater for the rest of our miserable lives, right? Who wants to live to 100 if you can never have a slice of chocolate cake?" The group bursts into laughter. In that exact second, the manipulator wins. They did not disprove your science. They did not present a counter-argument. They simply turned you into the punchline of a joke and won the favor of the crowd. The audience's laughter acts as a psychological gavel, declaring them the winner. Human beings are fundamentally herd animals. We naturally side with the person who makes us feel comfortable and entertained, rather than the person who makes us think too hard. When you're hit with this tactic, the absolute worst thing you can do is get visibly upset, act offended, or complain that they are not taking the debate seriously. If you do that, you will only look even more socially awkward and defeated. To counter this, you must calmly reclaim the alpha position by patronizing their joke. You smile a cold, knowing smile, let the laughter die down completely, and say, "That was a very entertaining joke," but it does not change the reality of the facts. It is perfectly fine if you do not understand the science, but let us not pretend your comedy routine is an actual argument. This brutally exposes their joke as a cheap defense mechanism for their ignorance, shifting the embarrassment right back onto them. These 7 dark tactics represent the grim reality of human interaction. We want to desperately believe that the world is a fair place where the truth always triumphs and the most logical person always wins. But as Robert Greene has warned us time and time again, the world operates on the ruthless dynamics of power, perception, and manipulation. The people who study these dark arts will always hold a terrifying advantage over those who refuse to acknowledge they exist. Understanding these tactics does not make you a bad person. It makes you a protected person. You cannot defend yourself against a sword if you do not know what a sword looks like. Whether you choose to use these strategies to completely dominate the room, or simply use them as an impenetrable shield to protect your own mind and reputation from the narcissists and manipulators of the world, that choice is now entirely yours. You now possess the power to see behind the curtain. You will no longer walk away from an argument feeling frustrated and outsmarted. You will observe their tricks. You will smile at their desperate attempts to manipulate you, and you will dismantle them piece by piece. If you are ready to stop being a victim of other people's games and start mastering the brutal reality of human psychology,